Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Joy from She Speaks Too. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, and make sure you subscribe. All right, so today we're going to be talking about voting day in Liberia, election day in Liberia, and my experience being that it was my first time going to vote. Okay, so I'm just going to give it to you straight, my experience, nobody else experience, just tell you what I thought. So going into voting day, I was nervous because there was so much talk about let's maintain the peace, let's have a peaceful election. People were texting me from all over. We praying for y'all. I prayed for peace. Be safe. This and this and this. So if you keep hearing that a lot, then you begin to wonder, like, is there not going to be peace? Am I not safe? So going into that, I was a little nervous. I was praying for the best. I was even watching YouTube, and every now and then I'll watch, not every now and then, a lot of times I'll watch sermons from my favorite pastors online. And I was just scrolling through, and there was one pastor from Kenya, a lady who was praying, interceding for Liberia, declaring that there will be peace in Liberia. I said, but dog, the people praying for us in Kenya too? What? I mean, I know we have a history of civil war, but so yeah, it did make me a little nervous. That the fact that peace and instability or stability was brought up so much concerning these elections. So I was nervous, but I was determined to vote. I was determined to make my voice heard. I was determined to be a part of the process because, they say if you don't vote, you can't complain. So you got to zip it if you don't vote. So it's been almost 2 weeks. Yeah, it's been 2 weeks. I still got this on my finger. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, so yeah, there was a little nervousness. The day of voting, of course, if you have people that work for you, you give them the day off. The only people that really, really can't have the whole day off is your security, because of course you need security. But what we did was at like 7 in the morning, we let our security go because it was daytime. It was quiet. We let him go to vote. Thinking that, I think the voting polls open at 8 o'clock. We let him go around 7 so he can go and get in line because they said the lines were going to be horrible and it could take like 4 or 5 hours. We sent that joker around 7, and he's one of my favorite people. So I'm not saying this to bash him, but we sent that joker around 7 and he got in line. Long story short, he didn't get back until 4 o'clock. We had to wait on him to come back in order for us to vote. Mind you, the polls close at 6. So, but once you get in line, once you're in line before 6, you're allowed to vote, right? But they do have some places where, like my driver told me that they said they ran out of tally sheets, so people couldn't vote. So anyway, send the security at 7. Didn't come back until 4. And when he came back, that joker was dressed up. He went around town. And I'm thinking I'm doing a good thing. Like, no, go vote. We're not gonna let you stay here. Go vote, even if we don't have anyone in the yard, go vote. When he came back, he was dressed up. So I made sure I encouraged everyone that worked for me to vote. The driver said that when he went to vote, he was in line for so long that then he said the Zocos bum rushed the fence of wherever he was supposed to vote, and people started running. They were scared, and he said by the time he got in there, they told him they didn't have any tally sheets, so he was unable to vote. So, but everybody else got to vote. Even my security got to vote. The one that went from 7 to 4, he got to vote. So anyway, when the security came back, then we left the yard because somebody had to be in the yard, and we went to go vote. I was nervous. I had Sienna with me and my husband. So we set out to go vote. We parked, we got out of the car, we're standing in line. As we were standing in line, my mom let me know that she was done voting so she could pick up Sienna. So she picked up Sienna, my husband, and I stayed in line. And I'll show a video of what the line looked like. Show how it looked before we went in. So this part now is just going to show you the surroundings. It was primarily peaceful. There was no problem, maybe an argument here and there because the people were like, we've been waiting or something like that, but it was very peaceful. So here is what I'm going to show you right now. get inside, first of all, they verify your card to make sure you even have a valid card. You get inside and you are separated by last name. So you get inside, it's in a church. The place we voted was in a church. There are different stations. So we just went to the first station they told us to go. When we stood there for like 10, 15 minutes, we found out that our last name was not there. They sent us to another place because the things that had the last names were very small and they were high up. So no one really could read it. We were dependent on them to tell us. We went to another place. We stood in that line for another 15, 20 minutes. Said, oh, you're sorry, we're not in the right place. Then we had to get in another line. And I think that they were letting too many people in at a time, because once you got in that line, I mean, we were really tight, like kissing cousins, like sardines. It was very hot, and there was no fan, there was no air condition. I mean, it was, if you were dehydrated and there for a prolonged time, you were going to pass out, because at some point I felt a little dizzy, but I was determined. I was determined to cast my vote. So anyway, we finally got in the right line, and you're just nervous because, you know, you hear people say that they stood in line, they get in their car, they couldn't verify their name on the thing. So I'm in line. They turned the page to my last name. I'm the first picture. Your picture is there and everything. I'm the first person. They have a big old roll. So I was so happy. They give you 3 sheets of paper. One is for representative, one is for presidential, one is for senatorial. And so all of them are different colors. Like they're, I think, red, green, and maybe let's say blue. So each sheet is a different color. They have your candidate's picture, and then they have a slot where you can either put an X or you can put your thumbprint. There's ink in the booth. When you put your thumbprint, you're advised to let it dry before you fold it up. So they verify that you're on the roll, which you're nervous. You're like, I hope I'm on the roll. But I electronically verified online that I'm eligible once I got my card, but anything can happen. So anyway, you get in the polling booth, you have your 3 papers, there's a pen in there, there's an ink pad, and you decide whether you're going to use the ink pad or whether you're going to use the pen. So I did the pen, and you can either put an X or a check mark. I did an X on each of my papers. Then you fold it up and you look at your color. There are plastic bins with locks in it with a little slit on the top. You drop your paper in there, and in the color that matches, you drop your paper in there, and then you exit. And that is the voting process. I think I heard that they have electronic voting somewhere, but I didn't see any of that. Everything was by paper. We cast our ballots by paper. I think with every process, it could be a little smoother. It could run a little better. But the fact that it was efficient, it was peaceful, it was tight. I feel like they should have decreased the amount of people in that building at one time, because it was so tight. It was so hot. There was not a lot of ventilation, not a lot of breeze. But for the most part, they had poll watchers. So for each place, they had observers and people that were watching, taking notes. Each section, for each last name, alphabetical section, there were people sitting and observing and taking notes and watching. They had their copybooks. Then at the end, they had their phones. They would take pictures. They would verify. And so that is the voting process in Liberia. That was my experience in Liberia. And then I'll share the video of me and how I felt. I felt joyful. I felt at that time, I felt like my vote counted, my vote mattered. I was proud to be a Liberian and to be on Liberian soil at that time. All right, so one of the most important things that I did forget was the fact that when you're done, they put a purple mark on your left thumb. And I don't know what they'll do for the runoffs, because now we're going to have second round. Maybe they do your right thumb. But anyway, they put it there, and it's purple, and then it's fading to brown, but it's still there 2 weeks later. And when they were doing my husband, he's like, my man, you want to see my fingernail? Let it be so. So anyway, that was funny, but I didn't mind. It was like a badge of honor for me. So that is what this one is.
So as you can see, I'm done voting. All right, we are done voting. It was hot, it was sweaty. We got really close to people like kissing cousins. We became family, and we are done. So I'm exhilarated, I'm a little tearful. This is my first time voting in Liberia. I feel like I can make a difference. I'm hopeful for my country. And today I became a true Liberian. I mean, I am, but this was a rite of passage that I never have experienced before, and I'm happy. I'm very happy right now. So I pray for peace, prosperity. Liberia is not for one person to enjoy. It's for all of us to enjoy, regardless of your background, where you came from. Opportunities should be afforded to everyone.